Hey, I'm Gene Goldman, and here's a look at the week ahead for the week of April 24th. Well, with the expected release this Thursday of the first quarter GDP report, and GDP is gross domestic product, which is the economic output of the United States, it's a good time to discuss this report, the economy, and where we expect the economy to head. So starting with the GDP report, consensus expects GDP for the first quarter to rise 1.9%. We do expect the final number to be pretty close to that consensus, though maybe a little bit lower. On the positive side, consumer-related spending was pretty strong in January and February. So for example, you see here retail sales look pretty good in those 2 months because warmer weather, people spent less money on heating. This left more money to be spent on both goods and services. On the negative side, we did see the bank issues in March, which may have impacted overall borrowing. Also, we do see bloated inventories at retailers, so we probably saw a little bit of a slowdown in overall inventory building. So the GDP report, we're watching it very carefully. But one thing I want to stress about this report is that it's very old data. Because remember, the quarter ended about 4 weeks ago. So what about the economy today and the economy going forward? Well, despite some positive recent momentum we've seen, for example, some better than expected economic reports last week, we still believe that we're headed into a recession. There's lots of data that I can highlight to highlight the slowdown. But what I'll do is point to the recession riskometer right here that's found in our chart book that you can get access to via your Cetera Financial Professional. But if you look carefully, it's flashing red for recession. Also, if you look carefully, the economic trend signal is flashing red for negative trend. So the key point here is that even if we have a recession, which all the indicators are suggesting it, we do expect this recession to be mild. And I'll come back to that in a second. So the question we get from a lot of you is, if we have a recession, when will this recession take place? And there's two real thoughts behind this. Number one is that if you think about this, it takes about 12 to 15 months for the economy to fully feel a Fed's rate hike. Well, the Fed started raising rates first in March of last year. So you roll the calendar ahead, maybe the second or third quarter of this year, though we are leaning a little bit closer to the third quarter, given some of that data strength that we saw in January and February. The other point to look at is called the leading economic index. And what this is, it's 10 high-frequency data points like jobless claims, building permits, manufacturing hours works. What's beautiful about this report is that it tends to peak about 13 months in advance of an economic peak. So you see here, for example, it has fallen since February of last year, again, pointing to a possible recession in the second or third quarter of this year. The overall takeaway is that we're likely headed to recession. But the good news is that we anticipate this recession to be mild, given labor market strength. Housing is not like 2008. It's in a much better place. Less inventory, higher owner's equity, for example. And we do anticipate this recession to be what's called a rolling recession, where it doesn't hit the entire economy at once, but it kind of rolls through sector by sector, a mild recession. Thank you for listening. For more information, please follow us on Twitter at CeteraIM. See you next week, and thank you.